Without any further delay, I want to bring Sim Gopalan, who is the co-chair for our community services. Sim Garu will share a few bits of information about this, the need for, this transplant. Why do we need this? And then kick off the panel discussion with Dr. Siv Prasad Garu and a few other great people who are here, who were, donors and also some recipients of, this transplant. Simu Garu, please go ahead, sir.
Yes, thank you, Raju. Thank you, everybody, for coming in on a Sunday evening to attend this. And Raju, can you put on the slide? See, this is a cause. I'm not going to go too much into detail because you will hear over the conversation of others, but helping the people suffering from blood cancer or any other serious blood disorders is something which we as a society and as individuals can definitely contribute. So these are some of the facts just to start with. To every 3 minutes, we see someone in the US is diagnosed with blood cancer. That means that in this 1 hour talk we have, there are about 20 people would be diagnosed. So this is how serious it is. And most of them don't really have a cure with the other conventional methods. And the cure would be mostly with stem cell transplants. That is stem cells taken from a healthy person. But at the same time, when you say that you just can't take it from somebody, anybody there, right? You got to have a matching donor. When you say a matching donor, it's not a blood cell matching. It is something called a HLA type matching. So that is more ethnic based. So people with the same ethnicity most probably will be the match. And also the possibility of match is very, very rare. And the people who match, siblings can be a match. That is a 25% possibility. But if most families, only about 30% of the families can find a match within siblings. So the other 70% of the patients had to look elsewhere for a match. So that's how difficult it is to get a match. And Raju, can you go to the next slide? So this slide shows what the concentration in the registry is. So to find people, we have to pre-scan them and then put the potential donors in a registry, and this is the Be the Match registry. Here you see that there are a lot of Caucasians, about 49% of Caucasians, and all other ethnicities are very, very less percent. And if you look at South Asian, it is 5%. Among that Indians, it is about 1 to 2%. So we do need to increase the representation of all these minorities like African American, South Asian, and American Indian, Hispanic, and other multi-race things. Next, Ranja. And another slide to show the possibility of getting a match. In this, African Americans have only 23%, and multiracial is 18%, and Asians are 41%. Indians are somewhere in the 30 range. Yes, so it is very, very important and critical. We have to get this. And today we are going to look at some of the heroes who had been driving this and motivating most of us, and people who had gone through this, and then see how they conquered and how they are coming through with this. And there are heroes who had donated and their experience. So we are going to look at all of those. Without much ado, let me introduce our main speaker, Dr. Shiv Prasad Bellam. Dr. Bellam is a retired hematologist and an oncologist. So he knew himself what was happening, and he's a great asset to this cause now. And he's a humanist, a rationalist, and also a philanthropist. He's been involved in a lot of other causes too, helping. And we are fortunate to have Dr. Shiv Prasad Bellam here to talk about his experiences and his knowledge there. And then we have Vishal Belagodu, who is a Bay Area resident since 2010. And Vishal was diagnosed with AML in 2015. And then he's a survivor as well. And so he's a software engineer and interested in percussion instruments and motorcycles. And we have Mr. Alok Bawadia. And I knew Alok from 2011, and he is a survivor, and he was diagnosed with the MF and MDS. He's a software engineer, and these people are going to share with us their experiences. And then we have Dinesh Chandrasekhar, a very good friend of mine, and he is a donor, and he donated and saved somebody's life. And we can try and get the experience of a donor and what how it was, and it is very important for all of us to learn what it is to donate, and Dinesh will share with us. And thank you very much for being here, and without much ado, I'll hand over to Dr. Shiv Prasad Bellam. Thank you.
Dr. Suprasad garu, you can share your screen now, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Basically, Sim Garu has covered the gist of the topic. Now, let me put it in a different perspective. We all try to do the right things to be healthy. We are all worried about dying of a heart attack or a stroke. We all know about cholesterol, and we eat right to avoid diabetes. We exercise to get rid of cholesterol. And if you get a heart attack, heart attacks and the coronary heart diseases, dying of heart problems are the leading cause of deaths, followed by cancers and hematological problems. Even if you get a heart attack, most people survive it. Majority survive it. There are excellent medications, excellent procedures, excellent treatments that can be done to save you. But what can you do if you get a hematological disorder? Is there any yoga, exercise, diet, or whatever you can do? There's nothing you can do to prevent it. The only thing is treatments. So you go to the best treatment place. What do they tell you? Oh, go find a donor. Oh, sure. Where? Where do you find a donor? Then you start Googling, where do I find a donor? And with that introduction, let me share my screen with, how do we do this?
Share screen, sir, at the bottom of the window.
Okay, you see this, right?
No, not yet.
Saves lives.
No, we still don't see you, sir. We don't see you.
Okay.
We see you, but not your slides.
Okay, now this is a shared screen. I hit the shared screen.
And then another window will pop up. At the other window, leftmost, whatever it says, screen or desktop, that's what you need to click. Yes. Yes. Now just go, just do the play thing. Yeah.
Okay. The first slide says stem cells saves lives.
So you have to enlarge that, sir. You just have to play.
Play on
The
there.
play thing. No.
Oh,
Go down. Go down.
Okay, this is good. This is fine.
Okay.
Is it visible now?
Yeah, it's good.
Right.
Good, sir.
Okay. Stem cells saves lives. Can you buy them? Nope. Can you manufacture them? Nope. Can you buy it on Amazon? Nope. Somebody has to do it. Somebody has to give it. Who is that somebody? Are we prepared to give our stem cells? I mean, I'm ashamed. I was, even though I was in the industry, in this business, I was not at all aware of how, what the shortage was. And who needs it? You name it, all the hematological disorders, myeloma, acute leukemia. I mean, you can Google this condition and you will see all the indications for stem cell transplant. And this is a very unique process. No one can explain how these help, but this saves people. And our country of India is what? What is it now? Population 1.3 billion. There are only 3 lakhs or 3.5 lakhs people who registered to be potential donors. Out of them, when they're really called upon, it's less than 1% who really show up to do the stem cell donation. And in this country, for the Caucasians, this is kind of repetitive what Sim has showed us. Yes, Caucasians have the best likelihood of getting a donor because they are more giving in nature, their culture, they're more charitable, I guess. So that's why they always likelihood of finding somebody to be a donor is almost 77%, 75%. Asian, when they say Asian, Sims also said about 30 to 40%, but that does not include Indians. How do I go now? Okay, ethnicity matters. We are such a diverse population in India. Every 100 miles we go, we all kind of look the same, but our HLA is totally, totally different. And if you look at this number, the likelihood of finding a match in the existing registry for the Indians is what, 0.008%, whereas for the Caucasians, it is 77%. So when you are hit with a myeloma, leukemia, or myelodysplasia, your likelihood of finding a donor is this much. Because, I mean, until this hit me, I never registered myself. I never registered my family, my friends, or my children, because we were not aware of it, aware of the need. I sent a lot of my patients for transplants, but they're all mostly Caucasians, and most of them do well. But when an Indian gets affected, kind of that's the end of the story. You can't find a donor because there are no donors registered in the registries. And it's not easy to find the registry. Then you start doing drives, stem cell drives. Those are not easy to conduct in India. When I was involved, with the help of my family and friends, we were able to add almost about 20,000. The count is 30,000? Yeah, 30,000 people to the existing 3.5 lakh people. And out of those, yeah, at that time, there were only 2.5 lakhs, and we added about 30,000 people to it. And out of those, periodically, I get a call saying, by the way, we were able to find a donor from your registry with the people you registered. I get to see the children who are survived, thalassemia survivors, thanks to the donors, thanks to the registry. It's a very simple process for the donor. We actually need only less than 5% of the marrow cells. And most of the time, we get it from the peripheral blood, from the elbow, the vein in the elbow. Very rarely, we need to use the bone marrow, which is really putting a needle in the bone marrow, like the old-fashioned way. And it's pretty safe. By the way, nobody has died by doing a stem cell donor. It's not like kidney donor, kidney donation, or lung donation, or a heart transplant, or liver transplant. Stem cells, anyone can, in a healthy person like 18 to 45 or 18 to 50, all are eligible. And there are no serious side effects too, nothing. And nobody has died out by being a donor. This is the old-fashioned way of getting the donation from the hip bone. They're also anesthetized and they don't feel the pain. Recovery, they say 1 to 2 weeks, but not really. Within the 3rd day, they are fine. And it's not painful at all. And are there any residual side effects? No. And now, majority of the people, they do the peripheral blood. They just sit in a recliner. One hand, the blood comes out. It goes to a machine called the apheresis machine. The stem cells are collected, and the blood is given back to the donor. This is the most common way, and they're fine. Recovery 2 days, but they go home the same day. It's less painful, but it only takes 10 minutes of registration, and the HLA matching is done by a swab test from the inside of the mouth, the cheek. And it gives you the opportunity to save someone's life, quote unquote. It could be you who could be needing it. It could be your children. It could be your brother, anyone. And this is myself. I was diagnosed with this condition called myelodysplasia in 2016. And the only cure was trying a bone marrow transplant. While doing the conditioning treatments, we started to look for a donor with a perfect match. And we were told we found one, but the donor removed himself from the registry. At that time, my older brother, who was not a perfect match, he was only 6/10 match. This is my older brother. And this is the savior stem cells, less than 200 ml. And this is my wife and my sister-in-law, and this is myself. And this is happened, and the donor process was very easy. He was still working during those 5 days. He took the injections, and on day 5 he comes to the hospital, gets the stem cells taken out, and I get the transfusion the same day after certain processing. And for the donor, the next day he's back on his golf course. It's that simple. And so what do we do? And every 3-4 minutes, someone is diagnosed with a blood cancer. A lot of people die every day with this, and it could be one of us. So as a human being, our nature should be to help out each other. This is one thing, it doesn't cost you anything, and it gives you so much gratification. Just like blood, this cannot be manufactured. Somebody has to donate it. And you could be the one who needs it. It could be one of your family. And we were kind of doing well until 2016. My son got into, we were in the kind of cloud 9. My son got into a Ivy League 8-year medical program. My daughter got into a dental school, and my daughter was getting married in another 3 months, 4 months. We went to India for shopping, and that's the time I realized I had myelodysplasia. And but we still did the wedding, and here is the ending. That's my daughter. This is the organization in India, which we got associated with in conducting the stem cell drives. We did it in lots of colleges around the place where we come from. And we were able to enroll about 30,000 youngsters into the registry.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Bellam. This is a powerful message, and you have put it so well, composed everything together and sharing your experience with you, and also enlightening others in that. It is amazing. Thank you very much. We're really fortunate to have you with us now here, and then helping in the cause. I mean, like you said, the possibility is 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 1 or 2 millions, depending on how their haplotype is. And also you pointed out that the donor who was found already, and the donor, unfortunately, I don't know to use the term, backed off or whatever it is. That is one thing, challenge which most of us volunteers like me are facing, as to how do we put across, how do we take the message to everybody to see that they are well aware of. And about Datri, I think we have a Datri person also joined with us today, Gayatri. Thank you very much, Gayatri, for joining us. And thank you, Dr. Bellam. And now if I can ask Alok how his experience has been. Alok is somebody who whose family I met and who I saw in Stanford in 2011 when my wife was going through the challenge. And so Alok had been helping us in the drives and then in all of this. So let us hear from Alok how his experience had been and his journey towards it, and any message he has for the people. Alok, if you can.
Sure. Thanks, Sim, and thank you, Silicon Andhra Rotary Club, for having me over to share my experience. My name is Alok Bordia. I am one of those lucky ones who is here today, thanks to all the work that so many people across the spectrum have put in to register South Asians to the Bone Marrow Registry. So in my case, like Sim mentioned a little bit, it was actually around 2010 that I was diagnosed with myelofibrosis and also myelodysplastic syndrome. Both of these are basically types of bone marrow disorders, blood cancers, however they are categorized. But when I consulted with Stanford at that time, this was in December 2010, they told me I have about 6 months and the only potential curative therapy was a bone marrow transplant. So now everybody here on this call and everybody is well aware that the process, outside of the process of what the bone marrow transplant is, the biggest challenge is to just find a donor. And in my case as well, my siblings were not a match. And so the NMDP, or Be the Match, they started conducting a search for me through Stanford. And the initial results were actually not very good. They came back saying there is actually no match. And so there was a point in time where we were actually looking at a dead end and considering some other options. And I think Dr. Bellum kind of indicated that at that time, they told me that maybe I could get a haploidentical transplant, which is when they take the stem cells from a sibling, even if it's a 5-on-10 match, and then just give it. But it was considered experimental and wasn't probably the best option at that time. But fortunately, they were able to find a donor for me. So someone like yourself on this call or somebody else, they must have registered. And I know my donor now. So she told me she actually registered in 2004. And then she had completely forgotten about it until she got this call from Be the Match. And then she went through the process of just whatever physical tests they need to go through, etc. And I was able to get the transplant. I will say the actual transplant process was the least eventful part of a bone marrow transplant. They give you a regimen of, in my case, at least I got chemotherapy, they wiped the marrow completely, and then the stem cells from my donor were given to me. It's like a blood transfusion. And magically those stem cells, they start finding their way into the marrow, and within a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they start producing new blood. So it is literally, that's what happens. It's like magic. And at Stanford, and I know across many transplant centers, they literally celebrate the day of the transplant as a birthday, because from a recipient perspective, it really is that you get a second chance. You basically are reborn. I think people have mentioned in general about how hard it is to find a match, and that is probably the biggest challenge. When I was, or when NMDP was conducting the search for me, at that time there were about 150,000 South Asians. Today, of course, from the numbers we know, it's closer to 1 million, but it's still just not enough to guarantee a statistical match. So we all of us, like everyone who cares about this issue, people like me who've directly benefited from it or indirectly, everyone needs to do whatever they can to get more people on the registry, because there is an option available, and it's just that we need to spread the word, send family, colleagues, everybody, and the more we can do that, the better chance we have of saving lives. Just like I got a second chance, somebody else can get it as well.
Thank you very much, Alok. Thanks a lot. I mean, we don't really realize what the patient goes through, right? The whole challenge. And as far as the donor is concerned, it is not a huge challenge, but they are saving a life. I typically say when I talk to people is that they are not messengers of God, they are God themselves, right? I mean, you're saying not only the life of the person, the whole family and everybody else. And thank you very much for sharing, Alok. Then let me go to Vishal. Vishal's, as soon as we heard about Vishal, and there was another patient we were doing the drives for at the time, I met his family, I met Vishal, and It was pretty touching at that time, and went through a roller coaster again, Alice. And I'd like to ask Vishal how his experience had been and what were his emotions when he was first diagnosed, because being young and he had just got a new child at that time. So, Vishal, can you share your journey?
Sure, Sam. Thank you so much for the opportunity for me to be here and share what I went through. Before I get started, I would like to thank my wife, who's been strong source of support and encouragement for me during this whole journey. It's definitely not been easy, like Sim said, that there have been ups and downs. But I'm very glad to be here, in spite of all that my family and I went through. Really grateful to all the volunteers and people who take time out to do the drives. People such as Sim and Dinesh, and other volunteers, Gayatri from Datri and her team. They really committed towards this, and it's just amazing to see people so motivated to make a difference. So in my case, I my wife and I had our daughter in December 2015. She was about 2 weeks old, and that's when I started. I got a fever, and I did the blood work, and the doctor at that time assured me it was nothing, just a regular, maybe a cold or infection, and that didn't go away. I mean, I kept feeling tired all the time, and I went in for another blood work, and the same evening, the doctor told me that my white blood counts are extremely high, and it's not supposed to be like that, and they suspect it's leukemia, but they didn't want me to get admitted to get retested. So when I heard that, I was obviously very shattered. I'd been a pretty healthy individual, and I'd been exercising and taking care of my health, and like Dr. Bellam said, doing everything that I thought would keep me healthy. And obviously the last thing on anybody's mind would be a diagnosis of cancer, especially of blood disorder. So that happened, and I got admitted to the El Camino Hospital. I got my chemo. So this whole process was naturally very new to us. We were not familiar with anything at all. Most of the things the doctors were saying, we kind of got it, but didn't really get a full picture. But as the days went by, during my first chemo, we kind of realized that bone marrow transplant was the way forward, and that was the only way, because my mutation, I think the mutation was FLT3, and which is pretty aggressive among the AMLs. So we quickly understood that. And then I was referred to Stanford, and the doctors there, they're pretty amazing in the kind of work they do and the research that happens there. So I was referred to Stanford. They thought that my case would really, I would benefit from the expertise at Stanford. So I got another chemotherapy at Stanford because I was not in remission. FLT3 is pretty aggressive. I think they found about 3 or 5% of blast cells in my blood test. So I had to go through another round of chemo, and they gave me some oral chemotherapy tablets that I think those really helped me be in remission. And after that, we were hoping that I have a younger brother, and we were hoping that he would be a match. And as it turns out, he was not. And then things got really, things got really, reality hit us that, we really had to find a donor. And my BMT doctors team had started the process, and at the same time, Sim and several other people reached out to me, and they were all very supportive and encouraging, and they did a lot of drives for me, Marrow donation drives where people signed up. A lot of my friends, when they I hadn't spoken to them in 10 years, and they contacted me saying, how can we help and what can we do and things like that. So those kept me positive. And I was surprised that a lot of them had already registered, and then they told me that they were aware of the registry, but I wasn't. I was just diagnosed, and I'd obviously heard of people, but in my mind, I would be the last person to have something like this. So, and then well, once my doctor's team started looking for a donor, that process is a little, you don't really know what's happening in the background. You don't get insight into what's going on. And I think that's for a good reason. I think it keeps your anxiety levels low, but at the same time, there was a period where I did not hear from them for about 3 or 4 months. And towards the end of that, I was feeling pretty dejected. And I was beginning to think, what's going to happen to me, and what's going to happen to all these, dreams that I have. I don't know where this is going to end up. Um, uh, Thankfully, I think after 3 or 4 months, they told me that they've identified 4 donors. I think it was between 4 and 7. But when they contacted those people, only 4 came back with a reply. And my BMT doctor I think they had a panel discussion with the experts, and they decided to go ahead with a 21-year-old female, and obviously of Indian ancestry. And my BMT doctor felt that she was the best donor for me. And at that time, I was about 32. So they wanted the bone marrow itself and not the stem cell. So I think she had to go through the donation where they insert the needle in the hip. So that was about the donation part. And incidentally, the day I was supposed to get transplanted, we get to know that my donor has had some health issue. Again, we don't know what happened to her. All we know is that she's not in a position to donate. And again, it's like pretty anxious, and we were all ready to go on a transplant. My mother-in-law had fed me well and kept me healthy, and she was with us at that time. So she was all getting me ready for the transplant, which didn't happen. So, and the doctors then were like, they made me undergo another round of chemo because I had to be in remission. So by the time I got to the transplant, I think I'd undergone about 3 rounds of induction chemo and some chemos in between, which is outpatient. Then transplant date was set to, I think, July 26th, 2016. Yeah. And then I got the transplant done, and that chemo is pretty strong in that, like Aloke said, it has to wipe out your immunity and make way for the new cells. So there have been challenges with GVHD, like most other survivors, but I'm glad I have these issues because I'm alive. I'm here. I get to spend time with my beautiful daughter, who's about to turn 5, and I'm truly thankful to all the people who are involved and are making a difference in this.
Thank
That's
you. Thank you, Vishal. Thanks a lot for sharing this. See, most times most of the patients who I had been working with, they were all really healthy, like Vishal mentioned. I mean, we never had any clue as to something like this will come and hit them. So very healthy, and then one day the world turns upside down. I mean, that's very unfortunate. I still remember the day when the donor, Vishal's donor, was unable to do to donate. I mean, for volunteers like me and all other people who work on the cause, that's really a terrible thing, because that makes us think that the awareness should be spread as much as possible. And thank you all. You're all my heroes here now today, and then helping out in this. Then we go to Dinesh. Dinesh is a very, very good friend of mine. I knew Dinesh as a photographer initially, and then we became brothers and companions in fighting for the cause. And Dinesh was lucky enough to be chosen as a donor. And now I want to hear everything about the experience of a donor from Dinesh. Dinesh, if you would, please.
Sure. Thank you, Sim. And thank you for giving this platform to talk to a few more people. I think the more people hear about this process and how easy it is, and if they can register as well, if they can spread the word, I think it benefits us all. Kudos and best wishes to all the survivors that spoke here. It's always inspiring to hear that. So I think 5 years prior to my actual donation, which was like in 2016, 2015. So that's when I donated. So it should have been like around the 2000 time frame, or 2010 time frame, when I had a drive in the Livermore Temple. It wasn't my drive, like somebody was like conducting a drive there. And my wife and I were like visiting the temple with the kids, and we just happened to like pass by the drive, and one of our common friends was like hosting the drive. And she pulled us in and she said, hey, we would like you guys to like, register for this drive and all that. I literally did not know what bone marrow transplant was. I did not know what stem cells were, why this was necessary and all that. But because it was a common friend that was asking, we kind of were like feeling a little obligated in a way to say, okay, we'll do it. And then, the more I heard from them, as they kind of explained what the process and all that, I was like, okay, if it comes to it, we'll do it. But the registration process seemed like, fairly simple. You just take a swab, rub it inside the cheeks, and then you give that and then fill out a form. And that's pretty much it, right? So you pretty much are on the list. And then if you're a match, you get called. And then fast forward like 5 years later, 2015, or even before that, 2014, like around October timeframe, I get a call and a mail and an email, all three. And I got it from NMDP, and they said, you are a potential match for somebody that is suffering from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And this is another 39-year-old male. So I was 39 years old at that time. And they said, we'd like you to, donate stem cells. So I did not know again what the process was. I remembered the drive where I registered, and my instant thought was like, okay, let's do it, right? So if it is going to save somebody's life, let's do it. So I told my wife about it, and I said, I want to register, donate, and she was, supportive of that as well. And then I called up NMDP, and I went through the process of like understanding, what it actually takes to actually donate, right? To some of the fears that I think Dr. Bellum laid out about people fearing, oh, it's like a needle poking into your spine and all that kind of stuff. I've heard some stories as well. So I just wanted to understand what it actually means. And then the person at NMDP, her name was Fari Sloan, she's a very nice person. She kind of explained the whole process end to end, right? And she said, there are like two types of processes, like what Dr. Bellum had put on the slide. The bone marrow, which was like, on the pelvic bone, where they kind of like stick a needle and get the bone marrow out. Or the other one, which is the more common one, is the peripheral blood stem cell process, the PBSC method. And that's what she was recommending for this one, because that's what, again, was recommended for the patient by the doctors there. So again, it seemed very straightforward. I didn't have any qualms with that. And then I went through the process of like, them sending me documents, me signing up for everything and all that. They take care of everything, right? So there are no hospital charges, nothing. They even like were willing to like pay for my mileage expenses even, right? So I didn't do all that. But they said, they're like willing to do all that. But I said, fine, that's all okay. And then they asked me to do a basic blood work and all that. So I had to go into a local lab, check my blood pressure, vitals and all that stuff, which I did. And then they called me back and they said, well, Dinesh, I'm glad you're like willing to donate and all that, but we got some bad news that your blood pressure is very high. And so we cannot ask you to donate because they were concerned about my health more than the person that is suffering from cancer. They said, we cannot have you kind of have some complicated health issues because you are having blood pressure and you cannot do the PBSC method, right? So you cannot do that. I was totally disappointed. I said, there is an opportunity to save somebody's life, and I've been given a blessing, and I'm not able to like do that. So I was really disappointed. So then I went to the doctor after like checking in a few other places like Walgreens and this and that. Everywhere the BP was definitely high. So I went to my doctor, and he started prescribing BP medication to control that. went through that for like a few months. Again, got back to normal. Again, like in January timeframe 2015, Fari Sloan calls me back and she said, Dinesh, how's your BP? How's your health and all that? I said, hey, I'm taking medication. That was kind of like an eye opener that I went through the vitals, and then suddenly like I realized that I had this issue. So I'm doing all fine. My BP is all normal. And then she said, well, will you still be willing to donate? I said, yeah, I can still donate. Not a problem. Is it for a different patient? And she said it's for the same patient. So it's kind of like a destiny in a way, right? Where you're supposed to do something and you had to do it. So went through the process. I again asked her for like what I have to do. Went through the vitals and all that. Later on, they sent me a procedure to like kind of go through some injections, which is called filgrastim, that boosts up stem cell count in the body. So this is how they harvest. After like 5 days of like boosting stem cells in my body. Then the apheresis machine that Dr. Bellam spoke about, how they stick up like, just like how you donate blood, right? So it's like kind of like they stick a needle in your one arm, they run it through the apheresis machine, and the stem cells get collected from the blood, and then the remaining blood again gets back into your other arm. So I literally don't lose anything. Stem cells are something that all of us produce. It's not like something very unique, like a kidney or something like that, that you're like donating and you don't like grow it back. Stem cells are something that, once you donate, like it grows back on you inside your body, like in the next couple of days, you're like back to it refills automatically. So that's the beauty of nature. That's the beauty of our human body. That's how, science works, and it's beautiful. And that's what I did. So went through 5 days of like, those injections of filgrastim, which again, makes your body a little uncomfortable, meaning like, it gives you a little bit of muscular pain and all that, just like how you think about it, if you had the flu, how you had like, body pain, right? So it's kind of like that. Not a hard deal at all. I mean, I always, during those 5 days, I was thinking, think about, what the other person is going through. They're going through a whole lot, and this is like nothing, right? And then the 5th day morning, went to Stanford, Stechen, do the process, and then they do the apheresis procedure, which runs for like around 4.5 hours. So just like, the visual was there, I was like sitting in a recliner, I put on my headphones, I had an iPad there watching Breaking Bad or something. And that was the procedure. After that, I was feeling very tired, went home, slept for a while, like I ate a really good lunch and slept. Next morning, I was like, fine. Like literally, I was back at work. There was like no side effects. It's been like 5 years since I donated. I've run like several 10Ks, half marathons and all that. I'm like doing well. And I keep telling everybody that, if I can do it, you can do it. This is like absolutely everybody's duty to actually do so. This is like the least of things that you can do as a human.
Thank you very much, Dinesh. Thanks a lot. I mean, that summarizes real fast for everything what a donor goes through. And thanks for everything you do. And I think we are slightly running out of time. So anybody has any questions, quick questions, can you please come up with the questions? You can always reach us later for questions, which we will get from. But anyone has any specific questions to any of our speakers today, please go ahead.
Manojji, you're muted.
Okay, and thank you very much for coming, Dr. Bellam, Vishal, Alok, and Dinesh. This makes a lot of difference for people like me. It is an inspiration. Every time I think of any of you, it just boosts my strength, because when I go for the drives, you just see so much of disappointment there. At that time, I think only of you guys there, and that keeps people like me motivated. Thanks a lot for doing this.
I have to say something here. I think, sorry, I think the host muted me. I think Sim has taken a very docile role of being the host and like interviewing people, but I don't think enough is said about Sim of how much work he actually does. He's been like an inspiration to me, a hero for all of us, that has been in the community. How much effort he puts out there, how much he's a vocal spokesperson for this effort. And so I want to, give a special shout out to Sim for all the awesome work that he does.
Thank you. If anybody wants to ask any question to the panelists, please unmute yourself. You should be able to unmute yourself and ask the question, or or share your thoughts or comments or inputs.
Okay, I think donors are, I don't like to use the word God, but they're better than God or more than God. That is real godliness, if there is a word called godliness. Donating something without expecting anything in return. We all know we go to the temple, we put some money in the hundi, pray, blah, blah, blah. But there's always some expectation back. This is the only place where you donate blood, platelets, stem cells. That person is not expecting anything back. This happens, that's why I call them God. And people who are
We lost.
We cannot hear you. Please unmute.
Muting everybody.
Raju, I think we just get muted somehow all of a sudden.
Okay, how about now?
Yes, we can hear you
Now
now.
we can hear.
Yeah, I was saying that people like Sim and Raghu at Datri, who are making this more awareness, increasing the awareness. And when I was diagnosed, was I scared or no? Was I thinking of death? No, but what I felt was, I felt very, very guilty. I've been in being a doctor, all my family are doctors. How come we never contributed anything to increase the registry? That hit me a lot. And since recovery, we've been working on trying to, how to increase the awareness, how to increase the donorship. And I mean, for Dinesh, right? If you did not go for this stem cell evaluation, probably would not have been diagnosed. I mean, you would not been found to have high blood pressure. And it could have taken 5 years, 10 years. And by the time some amount of damage could have been done from the high blood pressure to your heart, your kidneys, to your eyes, who knows what. So some kind of blessing in disguise. And we did these drives in the temples too. And in my local place, when they were opening a huge Sai Baba temple thing, one of our physician friends was opening it. And being a Sai Baba thing, very, very popular. So there was a huge expected turnout. On the opening day, we wanted to put a table and give out the flyers about the awareness of the stem cell thing. But unfortunately, the organizers felt, oh, they don't want to hear the word stem cell transplant, bone marrow transplant on an auspicious day of opening the temple. And in Atlanta too, we tried to do a drive, and some Babaji, Guruji from India was there. There were thousands of people. We really had a difficult time asking them to stop by at our temple, take these test kits. It's a simple thing. You just open your mouth, we'll swab your tongue, your cheek, and we send it off. And if you are called, then you can decide whether you want to do it or not. But more people were interested in doing that homam, puja, and all that stuff than in helping fellow beings. That's, I think, is because of lack of awareness. If we can increase the awareness and also think, I mean, it could be tomorrow, it could be you who needs it. So my children do the drives at their schools every year, and we try to increase doing the drives back in India because that's where we need it. We have, as I said, 1.3 billion, and we're totally different. Each town is different. Each 100 miles we cook differently. Our traditions are different. Our HLA matching is different. So unless we increase the membership over there, we don't have a chance. Your dear ones, your children could be needing it. So we all have to work on increasing the membership in the registries. So, and I thank the donors who come forward to do it.
Thank you, Dr. Siv Prasad Garu. Thank you, sir. That's a very good message. Sim, any closing thoughts? And we can take one or two questions, you know.
Okay, yeah, there is a question I see. Actually, people are having difficulty unmuting.
No, sir,
you, but-
everybody is able to unmute themselves. Everybody is
Okay.
able to unmute themselves. And I have a raised hand from Abhishek Padmanabhuni. Please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yeah, and Manoj Joshi had asked the question, is the registry local to countries or global? You have global registries and you have local registries too. So every country has their own local registries. At the same time, you have global registries. And one good thing is when you look at the international registry, you do reach, it is checked on all other major registries from other countries too.
So does it mean like if somebody is a donor like in India, is there a technology right now like cryogenics or something that the stem cell can be preserved for a few hours before it reaches to US? Is there a possibility like that?
Yeah, actually, the donors can be anywhere in the world and the patients can be in a different location. What they do is they time it such a way that they take about the same time they are preparing the patient to have the donation. The donor, depending on where they are, the donor goes through the procedure and then somebody hand carries from where the patient is, from where the donor is, they hand carry it to the patient's location in the flight immediately after that, and then that is typically how the transplants are done.
Wow. Thank you.
Abhishek Padmanabhuni Garu, please unmute yourself and ask the question, sir.
Hi, Sim. Thanks for bringing awareness on this donation. Can you please help understand what's the process like during the COVID times? Are the registries allowing patients to come and donate blood?
Yes, see, it is definitely curtailed, not like before. It is a challenge, but of course, yes, the transplants are going on. In fact, I know a patient. I was working with a patient who had a transplant on August 31st. So the donors are able to donate, and the patients are able to get transplants too. But definitely not as easy as it was in the past. So with all the restrictions in the location where they can go and donate, but it is going on, yes, just like any other cause. And we don't run drives, we don't go to locations and then run drives. Everything is online. It's much easier for you to register now online, and you get the swabs by mail and you swab it and then check it, send it back. It's a very easy process.
I think someone was asking, what is it, like a criteria age limit, 18 to 44?
Yes. The thing is 18 to 44 is the limit in US, and in Europe and India, it goes up to 50 years. And what they noticed is they mentioned that $100. What happens most times, people at this age group are preferred because of the quality of the stem cell, but we stay in the registry till 60. And if anybody beyond that age need to register, they suggest a donation of $100 because that is how much it costs for somebody's process. I mean, every one of us, when we go and what you call register to do the tests and other things, it costs about $100. So, but we cannot ask every person who is registering for money. So that is why it is free of cost. But if somebody beyond that age group, if they are particular about it and they do it, there is a suggested donation of $100.
And my brother is older than me by 3 years, and he's more older than, he's about 63 or 65 at that time when he donated. So it's a guideline, 18 to 45, because they're the most healthiest at that time. But if you are fit and if your numbers are good, if you don't have too many other medical problems, yes, they still take stem cells from 60 and above also.
Yeah, true.
So 60 plus people are eligible to donate, yes.
Well, one question that came up, I think we should address is, I had registered like a while back. How can I confirm that I'm there on the list? I think it's a very important thing to address because not everybody has a sibling that will be able to donate. And even if they have a sibling, as we heard as well, that they may
They
not
will not match.
match
Yes.
as well. So that's also a challenge. And more than anything, we also have seen during these drives that we have had patients come up with 4 or 5 matches, but a lot of them don't return calls or are not willing because they registered at the time and now they are having cold feet or fearing the process.
Yes, they have a different phone number, they change their address, or they change their emails. Yes.
So I would say make sure that you're still getting the emails from AADP if they're registered through AADP or NMDP, be the match. So make sure you're getting those emails. You can go to their website, you can send an email to them and ask them to update your contact information if you've moved your mailing address. As you heard from me, I got a snail mail, I got an email, I got a phone call because my contact information was up to date. I've been in that same house for 5 years. I'm not changed my phone number, no email address changed. So I was able to be across all 3 fronts. Imagine I had moved, I've not updated it, then they wouldn't have reached me at all. And that's a real challenge that the registry is facing.
And one more thing is there is if once you go to Be the Match, there is a location where you can just check your if you're registered. I mean, if you're to update your information, in other words. So you can go ahead there and then update your information in the Be the Match website. That's how we do that.
Yes.
Okay, sir, Simugaru. So that's
Thank
a
you very
wonderful
much, Rajat.
presentation.